I'm Sheila with the Grateful Goddess, and with me today is Howard Glaser with the Nurtured Heart Approach. And normally I feature Goddesses of the Month, but this particular time I wanted to spice it up because variety is the spice of life, and I'm more interested in people who are living their passion and being a true inspiration in this world than whether they're male or female. How's that?
I think that fits really beautifully under Divine Feminine. I think we all have divine male and divine female aspects, and I think we're all better off as we discover them and cultivate them and nourish those qualities.
Yeah.
And probably the Nurtured Heart Approach is somewhat about nurturing those qualities.
Right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what is the Nurtured Heart Approach?
It's a way of, it used to be a way of turning around difficult kids, and it still is. And by that I mean they often go awry because their intensity gets the best of them, and people get hung up on how to best handle them because they don't always know. And they try their best with the ways they have at their disposal, and sometimes that actually makes things worse. So the Nurtured Heart Approach has been about turning that around so that these kids can use their intensity and intelligence in beautiful ways instead of convoluted ways. However, somewhere along the line it also shifted into, kind of morphed into, additionally helping kids see how great they are. Almost as if kids have greatness within them, almost as if they've signed up for greatness.
Which we all have.
And which we all have, I believe. And we so easily get amnesia. You know, we forget who we really are. We get abducted into life. And, you know, you could wake up a lifetime later and realize, God, I haven't lived my greatness. You know, you could hear your spirit could be at your funeral, and you could hear a eulogy, and everybody's talking about your greatness, but nobody's ever told you about it in your lifetime, and you haven't dwelt on it in your lifetime. So it's fun.
So that's what it's really all about, is telling people and helping them see their greatness within them so that they expand it. Yeah,
so they accept it and rise to the occasion. And, well, I kind of stumbled on it. A psychologist working with families. I mostly work with adults, working with parents who were frustrated with their kids and the choices they were making, and I tried everything I had learned in school, all the things I studied, philosophies, theories, practices, and saw how inefficient they were and how they somehow energetically seemed to make things worse. And I just was fascinated by it, probably because I was a difficult kid and I somehow held that energy, and I knew how stuck it could be, and I knew how it could make, it could produce some really huge losses in terms of relationships. Like lots of parents and kids wind up not recovering. They're lucky, it's grace if they come out of it on their own. I found myself being passionate, and I found myself being a keen observer of how energy flowed in relationship, and I realized that here's a parent who's loving their kid and they simply want their child to make better decisions. And when they're annoyed or frustrated, they simply express that. And the problem I saw was that the child was drinking in an energetic impression of, oh, here's my parents being 110% available to me. The bandwidth of the connectivity is so strong when I do something wrong. Compared to when I do something right, you know, it's pale. You know, the connection is weak. Dial-up, broadband, which do you want? And kids are just drawn like a magnet to to where the strongest connection is. I think we all crave strong, intimate, connected relationship. We want the closeness.
Mm-hmm.
And kids who are vulnerable to this impression, kids who are sensitive and needy and intense, they are prone to accidentally discovering they get a pure version of relationship when things go wrong. And so Nurtured Heart Approach is really about turning that around and then using the new channel of successfulness as a way to funnel in new impressions to the child, kind of reintroduce the child to who they really are as a great young person.
I think that's what I am so impressed with in terms of, you know, you started this work because of the difficult child, but then see that it's really meant for everybody. I mean, from the difficult child to the average child to the adult to the relationships to everything.
I wrote a book about that, and I didn't write the book about that until I experimented on myself for a good long time, and went, well, it could be in my imagination, but I don't think it's my imagination. I think there's a real payoff to getting energetically aligned, because within us, within our thought forms and patterns, and the energy we carry inside us, we can actually accidentally celebrate negativity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, if you ask most people on a scale of 1 to 10, how positive are you? They're going to say, oh, I'm a 7, I'm an 8, oh, I'm very positive, I'm a 9. But you know, what people don't always realize is when push comes to shove, when something falls on your doorstep, it involves stress or pressure. That's when we really get to know ourselves. It's easy to be positive when everything's groovy. Whoa, I'm actually highly negative. And I began to work with that. I began to see if I can change my default setting so that when push comes to shove, I really am ostensibly positive, and or I see the negative leaning and I can reset myself. And I learned that actually that frustration can be a gift. Those stressors can be a gift, that there's great energy locked into it, and to use the energy of worry, misery, and doubt. I got to see the beauty of that. And most of the time I could be conscious enough to go, oh, man, jet fuel, I'm going to tap in.
It's sort of like what we talked about earlier. Sometimes you need to say things out loud to know whether they're true.
Yeah. So I got some quirky thoughts that that I couldn't imagine sharing out loud, but you know, I was courageous enough to share it out loud, and person after person after person who I shared that with went, whoa, that makes total sense. And you could see their trajectory shifted, and the way they looked at their children shifted, and they're going, oh, I'm not going to give energy to negativity. You know, those are great qualities. Being inspiring is a great quality. Being thoughtful and wise are great qualities. So, could we say that to kids? Absolutely. Do kids like that? Oh my God, they love it. It's almost like I've been given the gift of being able to see into a kid's soul, and when I watch them carefully as I say things like that, I see the lights going on.
Yes. And what I really enjoyed watching in terms of, as you see this being implemented, and the teachers energizing the kids that way by showing them what their greatness is and appreciating the qualities within them that she sees or he sees, is that then the kids turn around and start doing the same to other kids in the room. So it so spreads, and of course it's all about gratitude and appreciation, which I love.
Yeah. One interesting road I take. See, I grew up with the rules being harsh. No, 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 no. And when you broke a rule, people came down on you pretty hard. And I think a lot of kids grow up kind of hating the rules, or, really confined by the rules, not seeing the beauty of how rules organize our lives and give us actually a jumping off point and give us, afford us great luxuries. And so one of the things I grappled with along the way is seeing the beauty of appreciating children when they're not breaking the rules. And definitely, you're following the rules. You're not arguing or yelling and the child goes, and then you could say, and that shows great power and great wisdom and great control. And before you know it, the child's going, and it's so much better than ice cream. Shines a light, signals their soul that they've been seen for who they really are, as a kind person or a thoughtful person or an industrious person, or ties into gratefulness, because I grew up in New York City, and I don't know if I have the right to say this, but I like to anyway.
It's your show. It's the Howie Show. It's the
Howie Show. So we now know planes could fly in buildings, and there's a lot of ways of looking at that whole situation, but one way that remains with me, and probably always will, is that now that I realize planes can fly into buildings, to me it's a miracle that that's not happening every day. It's a miracle. It's a miracle that there are 6 billion people, 7 billion people on the planet, and maybe only 1 million people a day are violent to one another. That's a miracle. That is a miracle. Could you imagine if it was 2 million people, or 10 million people, or 1 billion people being violent every day? I like looking at that side of the miraculous, what isn't happening that could be happening. See, I don't want to pray for peace in the normal way, because it's like saying to a child, come on, Billy, I know you could do it. Come on, I know you could do it. Try harder, come on. And Billy goes, the energy of that for Billy is, apparently I'm not trying hard.
Yeah.
And, so saying, I want peace, please, I want peace. The energy of the universe responds accordingly, and the energy subtly is apparently there's no peace. As opposed to saying, wow, what a miracle. We live in quite the world that's could be quite edgy, and there could be so much conflict, so much more conflict than there is. It's a miracle. Every day that our world doesn't fall apart is a miracle. I'd rather look at it that way. We could savor these thoughts of worry and fear and doubt. We think nothing of having that conversation with ourselves. We could lose a night's sleep. That could be 7-8 hours, if we've got something on our mind. To what extent do we linger, savor, languish on what's well?
That's right, right?
Yeah, how often do we spend more than 13 seconds or 3 seconds? Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. Wow, that went well. In England, my friends say, not bad. Yeah, I wouldn't call that savoring.